Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so with Robert Sarver's situation being as it is, Draymond Green has called for a vote amongst all the owners. He wants the owners to vote on whether or not Sarver should be kicked out the league, and he believes that in doing so, he will have an account of who supports the type of behavior that Robert Sarver was engaging in and who doesn't. I don't know that you get an accurate depiction of that by voting. I think you get an accurate depiction of what people are willing to allow themselves to be seen at the expense of maybe some of their other owners, and they will weigh that against their other things that matter to them in their situation. And that may be the result of how voting goes. People can buy votes. People can leverage their vote in a way. People could kind of lobby for certain things that don't have anything to do with the ethics that Draymond is asking for. See, it's much more complicated. It's not as centered as a narrowing down as simply saying whoever doesn't vote to get Sarver out is a bad guy. It's not that simple. You're not going to come to that conclusion that easily. These billionaires are a little too smart to allow themselves to be seen in a certain way that way. First of all, this is never going to happen. In my humble opinion, they're not going to allow this to happen. Because of the presence of the politics involved. It's too murky. It's too much swallowing of pride for the ownership group as a whole versus the players of whom they're at odds with anyway for a power struggle. And what it does is essentially allows Draymond Green, speaking on behalf of the players, it seems, to have more of an say-so in what takes place amongst the owners. And to a lot of people, it seems backwards. Now, I understand that the players are ultimately what are the contractors, so you need the players more than you need anything. Because if you don't have players, it doesn't matter if you have a beautiful building, bunch of colors, bunch of fans, they're all coming to see me run around, it's not going to work. They're not going to pay for that. So at the end of the day, the players do have power, but the players don't pay themselves. They have to have the money behind it. So my question to Dre is, let's just say I'm wrong, and you do find out through the voting system what you're looking to find, who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. Then what? That's the only thing. It's like, I think a lot of times we get to a point where we're like, we want to expose all the corruption and expose all the bad guys. That makes sense in a lot of ways to a lot of people, but what ends up happening is you end up getting people slipping through the cracks. They figure out ways of slipping through that. As we said, they can leverage their vote a different way. They can do different things that don't necessarily reflect what it is that you're open to find, and ultimately you won't get what you're looking for. You still got bad guys in there. All you effectively did is got rid of the people who aren't able to cover their backside, not necessarily getting rid of the bad guys. So that is important to understand in regards to situations such as these. Some people just don't like Robert Sarver, so they're going to be voting him out of there on the strength of that. They ain't got nothing to do with whether or not they support his behavior or not. So they just want him gone. And I think a lot of this has to do with money. I really do. I listen to what, and this is not something that this is not something I do. But from what I understand, they were talking about Robert Sarver's financial situation where he's at. And he doesn't appear to be where other owners are at. And I think that the presence of that could be something that could fuel this behind the scenes in a way. Like, yeah, he's been doing a lot of stuff, but if he had Ballmer money, they wouldn't be kicking him out. Like, let's just be real. That's part of it, in my opinion. So when you're up there that high in that money situation, though, a couple deals can get you right back to where you need to be. So that may be a thing, but it might not be a thing just the same when you're talking about upward of close to $1 billion. It's like, yeah, maybe that's very temporary of a situation. However, looking at Draymond Green's point of view, I respect all that he's trying to do, because if I were in a space, like let's say this was, I guess it's because my mind has just gone into different places now. I'm looking at things a little differently. But when I was thinking of things as black and white more so, it's as simple as expose all the bad guys, and then we got all the good guys in front of us, and now we know who's with us. But I just know better now. dig deeper into certain situations, you realize it ain't gonna uncover nothing. You're not gonna uncover anything. All you're gonna really do, as I said, is expose the people who weren't smart enough to cover themselves. Now, maybe that holds some value. I don't know, but that's a whole different conversation. I think at the end of the day, what owners need to be able to do is pay for things. In the presence of all of this, it really does come down to, can you fund the business with clean money, clean legal money? That's the most important thing. All of the other stuff that has to do with them being ethically on point and creating environments, that's about the business more so than about them as ethical humans in their mindset or whatever. That's about how they're willing to create an environment that will be fruitful for their business. Like, for example, I know that the people that I employ or the people that come to my business love the color green for whatever reason. So I'm going to make sure green is everywhere. I'm going to make sure I have enough green to represent what it is I think they want. That doesn't necessarily mean I love green. It just means that I know they love green. So I'm going to make sure they have it. Same thing. So anyway, all in all, I look at this entire situation, I just say, if I'm looking at Robert Sarver, the most important thing in this situation is just silence on his part. He don't need to be talking. He don't need to be doing anything. Hide back into the background. Disappear for a year. That's what he needs to do. Disappear for a year. Work on other aspects of his situation to get what he needs to get so these people can get off his backside. Because I do believe this does come down to money. I do believe that. Because they've known about his ethics and all the different quirkiness about his personality. They knew about all that. We could sit up here and pretend like they didn't know what was going on, but players come in and out of that organization, they know who that guy is. That's the part that I'm not buying about all of this. Organization, the NBA is an organization that bumps elbows with each other all day long. People text each other all day long. I'd imagine it's communication all day long between people. So if somebody's weird over there doing really wacky stuff, it takes about an hour for us to find out about it. In a situation like that, if you're somebody in the league and Robert Sarver's doing some crazy stuff, Chris Paul done told you about it. You already know. Jay Crowder done told you about it. You already know. Somebody in the organization spoke to somebody who's going to spread that information around like wildfire. You can see how fast news spreads in the NBA right now. Just off sheer hearsay, you can see stuff spreading around. So you know it's like that behind the scenes. All I'm saying is this. People acting like this is some revelation that Robert Sarver is a different kind of guy. That is bullcrap to me. I'm not buying. I think people have known he's been different the whole time. I think anybody who spends 5 minutes around somebody like that know they're different. The question is when do you want to push the button on getting them out of here for those differences? When it makes sense for you. I guess that time is now. That's how I'm looking at it. So while he might have done some funny stuff and might have been somebody or not funny, done some very serious things that are horrible in nature, what I'm saying is he probably had enablers around him the whole time, just like R. Kelly in a much more serious situation, but enablers who were waiting for the right time to give him the boot. So I don't like any of that. All that stuff looks crazy to me in those situations where you know damn well this guy's been acting a certain way for a long period of time, but now the clock just says it's time to push a button on him, so you do? Nah. Not this brain. I look at that funny 100% of the time. So that's pretty much it, man. While I don't support Robert Sarver's actions and stuff like that, I'm also watching the people that are coming after, and I'm just like, yep. So I don't know, man. At the end of the day, it's rough. It's rough when, you want to put yourself in a position as players to play for people that you respect, to people that respect you. When you come from certain situations, it's important that it's not just about money. You want to know that you're working for people that don't hate you. You want to know that you're working for people that don't see you as a slave. You want to know that you're working for people that aren't going to, behind the scenes, try to close doors for you and your community, right? And so that's something I think Draymond Green is looking at. It's like if I'm working for a god-awful billionaire and I don't know it, he's probably taking the money that I'm using, that I'm earning him, and doing horrible things with it. So that's the importance of weeding out the bad billionaires in these organizations. But the thing about it is you got to effectively be able to do that. You You can't think you're doing that and not do it, and that's exactly what this would be. Voting you ain't gonna know. You ain't gonna know. Just off of the sheer presence of the promotion of said voting. So if they decide to do this now, it's like, well, everybody's gonna vote them out because ain't nobody gonna want to be seen a certain way. You see what I'm saying? So you kind of force them into a position for which you look crazy for not voting. You're not voting because of anything other than the fact you don't want to look crazy in how you vote. So it just doesn't work. It don't work, Dre. I get what you're trying to do, bro, and I respect where you're coming from, and there gotta be a way to get what it is that you're trying to get revealed. I just don't think that way is gonna get done, or even if they did allow it, I don't think you would get it. What you're looking for from it. So it is what it is, man. We gotta find another way to weed out the bad guys. And respect the balance as such. Look, I'm one of those guys that am appreciative of opportunities where players don't get kicked all the way out the league for doing certain things that maybe they deserve to be kicked out the league for. Or lesser degrees to certain situations, obviously. But when you ask for certain hard stances to be taken against the other side, you best believe they're going to be taking very hard stances against you just the same. So the next time a guy gets a DUI, he may be out for a year. Next time a guy gets into some type of domestic violence situation, he may never play again. Like, these are the type of things that you ask for when you say, hey, other side, reveal a bad guy over there and turn on him. Like, you best believe there's going to be reaction to that. So that's why politics exists, because it keeps people honest. It keeps the diplomatic process in place, so people don't always be kicking each other's backsides in for no reason. That's what politics keep from having happen. And I think a lot of times those who respect authenticity don't respect the strategy of politics. And it matters. When you're trying to keep a structure going, politics ultimately keep people honest, because people do have different levels of what's right and what's wrong. They do have different conflicting ideas about what is morally correct and what isn't. And a lot of times there will be no other way for people to work together but if to put some of those things aside, and that's what politics do. More or less, it's supposed to be able to help put certain things aside for the presence of other things that matter most within what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So people take advantage of that. Some people are smarter than others, etc., etc. The presence of leverage, all of these different things. But at the end of the day, you got to be real cunning to be able to reveal certain things in the presence of these types of situations. It's not as simple as, hey, tell me the truth and expect that truth to come your way. Nah, it don't work. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But nevertheless, I think Draymond Green is scratching in the right area. You know, he's scratching sniff. He's scratching in the right area. It is important that the NBA makes sure that every owner and every player is a good representation of the organization or the association as a whole. I think teaching is the way to go. Reprimanding without teaching changes nothing. If you're gonna punish a guy for being a jerk and then not tell him how he went wrong, what he went wrong, where he offended, you're not gonna do anything there but just make him more angry and ultimately gain an enemy. You know, no enlightenment gained. So I think the NBA is actually approaching the situation the right way. I'm actually taking the other approach. I think making him take them classes, giving him a suspension, the fine, maximum amount of fine, I think that is the approach that I would take. Because I am of the mindset, and this is the importance of it, it's my mindset, that you can't inspire moral change with reprimands and punishment. I don't think you inspire organic change. I think you can scare somebody into never doing something again, but it ain't going to actually inspire them to figure out where they need to actually think differently and change their energy so that they can get back what it is they want out of the world. And so that's one of those type of situations. I think for a guy like Robert Sarver, it appears to me from afar that he needs to have some conversations to help him see some things differently so that he can make some changes in himself so that he can get the results that he's looking for, such and such. And if you're going to go, take your property from you, you're a bad guy, we cancel you, get out of here, all of that, none of that is going to make him say, damn, is my behavior messed up? Did I get this right? That's not what that's going to inspire. What that's going to inspire is defenses. You ain't even questioning whether or not you're right because everybody's attacking you. And see, I've always understood that when we go on to cancel people. I've always understood that when we look to punish without teaching. It just doesn't work. If you really want to change the results of what it is that you're seeing, you have to inspire organic change within that person. And that comes from grace, in my humble opinion. Can be considered soft, hard, tough love. There's balance to be found. All of that stuff has its place in this conversation. But if you're only giving them hard love and ain't love at all, if you're only punishing them and it's all about making them look bad so that other people can feel good about you making them look bad, you're not inspiring no change. You're not inspiring no change, and you're asking to go through this process again with somebody else later on. You have to inspire organic change within the people you're trying to change, and that, my friends, is contagious. So, once they see you treat that person right, then next time you go through this process, they'll remember that you treated the other athlete right. So they may be more inclined to listen to what it is that you're trying to do instead of looking at what you did to the last guy and saying, I'm not even open to this. You see what I'm saying? So that's the type of thing that can go wrong. And I said athlete, but in this case, it would obviously be owner. So, yeah, I think they're going about it the right way with Sarver. Things got to change in the inside of that man in order for him to be the person that ultimately can be the owner that he wants to be. Now, whether or not the NBA wants to kick him out or whatever, that's a whole nother person's conversation. I'm talking about how you actually inspire change, and that's what I'm ultimately about. So that's the significance of my point in this conversation. At the end of the day, people guarding against other things. Like I said, politics make it so that you want to punish people so that other people can see you punishing them, and that is exactly what I think is in play here. So we'll see what happens, man. Robert Sarver, I'm not in a space where I can say I'm rooting for you, but I do understand that if he's going to change for real, if he's going to actually stop doing some of this stuff that he's been proven to have done, it's going to take something different than just revealing that he's a bad guy and then banishing him to the ends of the earth. Like that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So that's what I got to say about the situation. I respect where Dre's coming from. You got to weed out the bad guys. Got to figure out an effective way to do that. And yeah, that's what I got to say, man. We'll see what happens. I doubt this vote even gets a conversation, let alone actually takes place. I don't think they're even going to talk about doing what it is that Dre is asking them to do. I don't think so. There's too many other things to consider that I don't think Dre's even considering in regards to all of this. But nevertheless, that is what I see there, man. You know me, I'm going to come back and give you everything I got in my head. If it makes sense, cool. If it doesn't, discard of it. It's all good. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching.